I think it's a problem that Republicans certainly miscalculated, say, going into the midterms, which is define the problem, define the problem, define the problem. But at some point you have to offer yourself as the solution. And something that's really interesting about how, say, the 2020 election went, the 22, and now we're getting ready for 24, is that there doesn't seem to be a lot of conversation about, if you vote for me, here is how your life changes. Instead, it's all about the overall for the country. Do you think that it's important that when you are the challenger, even if you're the one who's trying to return to the office, that you actually have to talk about, this is what will change for you if you vote for me?
You know, one of the things I noticed in talking to him yesterday is Trump likes to jump on board defining the problem. He hears your question and he's like, yes, that is an issue. And then he wants to talk about why it's such an issue. But he doesn't then spin to, and here's my solution to it. And I think the reason people aren't holding that against him is because they trust him. They're like, he's a deal maker. Once he gets in there, he's going to get advised by people who know how to solve these problems. And I trust in Trump to listen to the right people and make the right decisions. You know, you look at what he did at the border when it was so much better than it is right now. You know, the Remain in Mexico stuff, the ban on for COVID people coming across the border, Title 42. So many, like, he stopped catch and release. The deportations went up. He just did so much to secure the border. It wasn't perfect, but he did way more than the previous presidents. So all he really ran on was build the wall. He didn't run on any of that other stuff I just listed, but people advised him and he listened to them. So I think that's why Trump gets away with it. Because if you contrast that with, you know, Ron DeSantis, he's all about the solutions. He won't spend very much time on the problem. He's like, I get it. Here's the problem in one line. Here's exactly what I'm going to do about it. And he's more of a technocrat. And for somebody like me, who's a lawyer and a logical thinker, I like that. I'm like, oh, okay, great. Let's get to that phase of the conversation. But I think a lot of people just have the, you know, they get mocked for it, but in Trump we trust, and they're willing to put him back into the red throne because they trust him and him alone to fix it.
I also loved watching in real time him, frankly, trying to have it both ways on Fauci. Now, quite understandably, and good on you for bringing it up, this was a figure that was, yes, in a position of power because that was his position in the government. But Trump never fired him. He never silenced him. He never defunded him. He never told him to get out of the way. And he, of course, ended up becoming a lightning rod for all of the multiplicity of weird things that happened as a result of COVID. I was interested that in the preview day before we got the full interview today, you released about a 9-minute clip and it was the conversation in and around Fauci. Is that because you saw particular value in how he was not quite answering those questions?
It's because I asked my audience, what would you like me to ask Trump? And it was the number one question by far. Do you have any regrets on how you handled COVID? From Fauci to the lockdowns to the mandates that his White House coronavirus task force was recommending on masks. Wouldn't you like a do-over? That's what people want to know. These are his fans, you know, for the most part. They want to hear him say, yeah, I would have done it a little differently had I do what you do. That is what they wanted him to say. It's not who Trump is. It's not. I mean, there's a quote going around the internet of old Trump, you know, is really young Trump, but I mean a long time ago, saying, you just don't admit when you make mistakes. Just don't. If they've got you dead to rights, blame it on somebody else. And he does live his life that way. I don't think he's capable of saying I screwed it up. It's just not who he is. I do think that's a problem because if you look at the reactions to the interview, core MAGA, they're fine with it. You know, they love Trump. He had classic Trump moments when he was just explaining why he calls Ron DeSantis Ron DeSanctimonious. It was kind of funny, I have to say. Like, I don't love the name calling, but he's funny, you know? When he was talking about, he was ripping on me for that debate question. It was terrible, you know, oh, you were awful. Kind of funny, too. His, you know, talking about Biden, he can't speak. He can't put two sentences together. He makes you laugh a little. When you talk about Bruce and Caitlyn Jenner, you know, like, he was very good looking. He was this good looking. He's just, there's something, you kind of start chuckling and you're like, I like him, right? So the Trump world like that, but DeSantis world is mad about the COVID stuff. And they want him to take some accountability of it. And they hate the fact that he's trying to paint Ron DeSantis as a COVID hawk when DeSantis was anything of the kind, anything but that. And he also pushed back on Trump's White House coronavirus task force, time and time again, which was run by Fauci. They were trying to make Florida mask. And Ron DeSantis said no. They were trying to make them mandate the vaccine, and he said no. Ron DeSantis did things like pass a law saying you may not fire somebody for not getting the jab. That was very unique among governors. You know, at best, other governors were saying, all right, don't mandate it. We're not going to mandate it. But they weren't punishing corporations that tried to mandate it. So we all know that Ron DeSantis was one of the best governors in America on pushing back against the COVID mania. And when I pressed back on Trump, you know, not too hard, because it's not my job to defend Ron DeSantis. It's my job to elicit Trump's opinion, same as I did when I had Ron there. But when I pushed back a little, Trump backed right off of it. He said, I'm not attacking anybody, you know, because he knows it's not true. It's a political thing between those guys.
Yeah, exactly. And sort of, you know, one that he's tried to make personal. But look, you know, anyone's allowed to run for the nomination. But I'm very much with you, which is, look, the guy deserves another shot at it. See what happens. DeSantis is young enough that if he wants to, he can come back again in 4 years. All right, I'm going to let you go in a sec, but I wanted to ask about Melania. I love the way you asked him about Melania. I love the way that he responded about Melania. Now, you could also, and again, I'm not inside his head, but I'm going to pretend to be for a second or two. He loves his wife. He loves his kid, and very obviously the dynamic in their relationship is, don't talk about me. I'm a private person. If you force me to be, a public person because I have to be the first lady, I want to do it on my terms. I loved how he was equally proud but protective of his wife. What did you think?
I really think that Melania gets a bad rap. I think she was 100% classy and collected and dignified when she was the first lady, and has remained the same thereafter. She's not running in front of the cameras. She doesn't need attention. She spent a lifetime in front of the cameras. That was fine. That was good enough. You know, she, as he pointed out, she made it on the cover of Vogue as a civilian. She didn't need to get up there as the first lady, as they've done for all these lefties. You know, I mean, Michelle Obama's on there, Vogue, doing the big spread on Karine Jean-Pierre, please, and not Melania. Okay. So he points out she earned it, you know, on merit, on her actual beauty. That's how you normally land on the cover of Vogue, not for her husband's politics. In any event, I do know somebody who's pretty close to them, and this person told me in advance of the interview, she's his rock. There's only one person. Kellyanne Conway said publicly, there's only one person he fears, and it's Melania. But that they're actually tight, and they have dinner together every night. They love each other. I know all the stories about Trump and the porn stars and the alleged cheating. And of course, I've covered a lot about him and the women, as everybody now knows. I don't know what goes on in the marriage, and I don't know what the covenant is, but I do know that she has stood by him. She did not leave right after he left office, as so many of these Trump-hating Dems predicted she would do, right? That she was going to leave him. I think she genuinely loves her husband, and whether they have an arrangement or what, I couldn't tell you, but I think they're actually close.